Okay, so I'm not going to go back and forth about, trying to debate or defend my statements. I was very, very explicit with how I said it, how I framed it. So there's always going to be a group of people who just don't want to hear what somebody's saying for what it is.
Rohan, I'm going to hand the room over to you since you're the administrator for this house. Great conversation, guys. I'll be back.
See you back here soon, JB. Sarah, look, I just want to say thanks for making the comment, also asking the question so politely as well. I think we were pointing out before that, like, Miriam's going to have, she has her scope of the situation that she is going to be able to talk about. She's got a narrative based on her own personal experience and also the history that she has not just witnessed for herself, but also has read about as well. And I think, look, within this, there's a healthy conversation and, for that matter, a healthy debate to be able to have. I'd love to know if there's anybody else who's got like some questions or some pushback, or maybe on what Miriam had to was saying. Then please feel free to be able to just chime in. Let's go.
Sano, go ahead, Sano.
Yeah, I don't know this lady. I don't know Mariam. But I think, if I understood correctly, she's the daughter of Ibrahim Yazdi. Well, Ibrahim Yazdi was not a very good actor.
Granddaughter.
Even after revolution. Granddaughter. Well, Ibrahim Yazdi, he was not a very good actor. He was not a very good actor, a good figure in the history of Iran. Well, he fought for the Islamic Revolution. He was pro-Islamic Revolution, but he also became a victim of Islamic Revolution. So among all the hundreds of thousands of the victims of Islamic Revolution, Ibrahim Yazdi is one of the people who I feel sorry for the least, because he was one of the culprits who brought this pestilence to our country. And so just my question is, so Mariam, if I understand correctly, you oppose regime change in Iran right now. So is it because Israel is involved? Is it because of your hatred for Israel that you are opposed to it? Or is it because Pahlavi is involved? For which of these two reasons is that you are against? Is it because of your hatred for Israel or your hatred for Pahlavi? Judging from the views of your grandfather, because I don't know your own view.
That's really interesting. I don't know where you got the idea that Mariam is anti-Israel, or even for that matter, pro-IRGC, but Miriam, if you'd like to be able to respond to that, it's entirely up to you.
I think you, as
opposing regime change right now is pro-IRGC.
Supports Israel.
Wait, hang on.
Cleared it up.
Pause for 1 second, okay. Just for what it's worth, we've got a one mic policy. B, if a moderator is talking, that's not an indication to be able to open mic and just talk over them. That's not a good idea. We're not going to accept that. Sorry, Mariam, as you were saying?
I was just saying that as a Jewish man who supports Israel, I think it's fascinating from the outside in this current climate of trying to label people a certain way and I said it actually when you played my statement in the space. I think the question was cleverly worded, but I think you responded to it well, Ro. So I'm just going to leave your statement, if you want to repeat it again, out there for people to really understand the perception of what I said, how you took what I said, listening very carefully, how you said as a Jewish man who supports Israel, and what somebody like Sano is trying to paint what I said.
Sano, I don't know how you came to the conclusion that Mariam is anti-Israel and pro-IRGC. Is it possible you've misheard something?
No, I'm just asking. I'm not saying she's anti-Israel. I'm just asking, why would she be against regime change? After a historical opportunity we have, we don't have the luxury of choosing exactly how to carry out regime change. And if this attempt fails, then there will be massive massacres. There will be tens of Khabarans. If you are Iranian, you know what is Khabaran. What is the mass murder of political prisoners in the 80s. they will be thankful of that awaiting us if this regime change attempt fails. So why would anyone be against regime change now? Just because it is not exactly the way I dreamt it to be?
Well, I mean, maybe a way of putting it would be, Mariam, do you think that under the current circumstances, if there was a regime change, could it actually be any worse than what it currently is?
Hey, Miriam, in the midst of you answering that question,
hang on for a second. Anthony, I just want to see if...
Yeah, Ro, I would actually like to also hear what Anthony wants to kind of say too, so I can answer it all together, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, okay, that's...
All right, excellent. So Miriam, I just want to be clear, right? Do you think it's a fair stance for someone to feel if you're anti-regime change, that makes Miriam pro, IRGC? Do you think that's a fair statement?
If Miriam actually explicitly says she's against regime change, I'm sure that there's somebody out there that could take that and make 2 + 2 = 4 in that context. But I'd like anyone here, I charge anyone, to tell me where in any of my statement or anything else that I've said, assert that I am anti-regime change. Please. And Rose heard the video, Ro played the video. Ro, did I say anything anywhere that I'm anti-regime change at all?
No, you
explicitly
certainly...
Or even imply it in the slightest?
No, there was no implication whatsoever. It was an assumption that was being made and an assertion that came as a result of that, much the same as the assertion that you're anti-Israel, which I've known you on here for I don't know how long, but I've never heard you be anti-Israel once.
So to be clear, Miriam, I haven't heard you say anything that indicates that you're anti-regime change. I was just asking the question as a concept. It's not based on something you said. Multiple people have asserted that you're anti-regime change. I haven't heard you state that.
I would like to say something. Is it okay? So from what I hear so far, this is more about ancient people, Kurd. They are divided now in Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and Iran, right? Most of them are in Turkey. What I hear from Marian is there's a lot of complexity. The history timeline is very important. And she just hoped that in this discussion of how the regime change will take place, that people do not totally ignore. There is this, 8 million Kurds in Iran, but she hoped for the bigger picture. What would the world want to do with people Kurds? There are distributed around 14 million in Turkey, 8 in Iran, and some in Iraq, and some a little in Syria. I think that's what I hear from her. And I rather hear things like that, which is based on truth, than having many Israeli people wasting time on daily basis, debating futilely with people like Aziz, or people who just come and waste the time of the Israeli people. We hope for IRGC to go away. And the question is, in this very sensitive, uncertain time, should we hear about, the future of Kurd, right? But if this is presented as a truth, and if there is no misleading, everything is clear that she's not representing Kurd who's and thinking about anti-Israel, I don't hear that, and I also don't hear that about anti-regime change. She just hoped that there is this truth in history. What would happen to these people when there's an anti-regime change, when there's a regime change? And also the other point, what she said is, who is going to lead the regime change? She believes, maybe it's not her or somebody else, it's the Kurd people who's going to lead the regime change. They are willing to sacrifice their life. Again, I could be wrong, but she's not anti-regime change. She just hopes in this very historical moment in Iran, people don't forget there is an 8% Kurd death. That's my point of view.
Mariam, did you want to follow up with that?
Sorry for interrupting. Sorry,
Let
Mary.
me clarify, Sarah.
Sarah,
hang on. Let me clarify.
No, there was a guy in the chat who's like making very, very nasty comments. Maybe somebody wants to.
It's okay. I see it, but I think it's also important to see that it exists there, Sarah John. Okay, because that is also telling. Again, we're talking about complexities of all of this. There are people out there who make the statement "nuke Iran," right? I mean, they even create an account about it. We can disavow it. We can get upset about it, but we can't ignore that it exists. In my humble opinion, to answer Dave, I think I understand where you're coming from with the whole reliance on the Kurd part and bringing that. I didn't say definitively that it's Kurds. I said in response to Ro, when he asked me about this, I said that the complexity of it does cause a concern for me looking at it from the outside based off of 120 years. So when you have a population of Iranians globally, 80 plus million inside, and you have so many different factions and people that subscribe to a different type of political affiliation or ideology, it begs the question, where's the utopia? Where's that utopian leader or group of leaders? If you really want my opinion, I think that the leaders of Iran are in those jails. I think they're the dissidents and the political activists that have given their blood, sweat, and tears and have stayed in the country and have fought against the government. Those people, to me, in my humble opinion, are the ones that are truly the ones that can navigate all of this, because even sociologically or psychologically, they've earned the respects of their compatriots inside of Iran enough because they see them that have stayed there. Whether we on the outside have different judgments and opinions about them and we want to go down conspiracy rabbit holes or affix a label to them, regardless of what we think on the outside, the people of inside of Iran, they recognize who's in prison right now. So that's where I'll land on that part, Dave. And that's what I was trying to explain, is there's a complexity there of all the different.
Let me chime in here with a quick question. I think the commentary in the chat, and you referenced it, Miriam, begs a provocative question. And I'd like for you, if you could, to answer it directly. The question is this: do you think that Iran should have nuclear weapons? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
That's a great question, TC. That was actually a question we were talking about yesterday, and I've been on a different panels talking about this. On principle, I think every sovereign nation has the right to do that. The issue about Iran having nuclear capabilities started actually in the late 1960s and 1970. So during that time, there was Project Flower. You had the Shah of Iran back then, the late Shah, asking the United States for the ability to develop a nuclear program. The question right now is, do we trust this regime enough to have a nuclear program? My question to that is, what type of government would anyone trust to have a nuclear program? And the foundational principled question is, does every sovereign nation have the right to do it, right? Have the right to have it? And so if you look back at the history of Iran, it's not exclusive to 46 years, this question about nuclear programs, nuclear reactors. The Shah of Iran had a program to have 22 or 23 nuclear sites. Before Ford was Nixon. Nixon said, okay, let's work on an agreement. Let's talk to each other about this. So they had that. Then you had the Guadalupe conference that happened. In the middle of that, you had Ford come in. So the complexity and the accuracy of the chronological timeline of all this lends itself to the question of, when will the West or anyone in general be satisfied, and what regime will be satisfied for something like this to happen? So on principle alone, yes, I believe that Iran has the right to have the same things that Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Israel, America, every other country has. I would be a liar if I said that I didn't agree on that. So I'll leave it there.
If I could just follow up on that real quick, and then I'll hand it right back off to you.